Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Molly Heffernan, Director of Marketing for the Tory Burch Foundation, and welcome to our Small Business Webinar Series. I am thrilled today to welcome Lauren Baideme. Lauren is the Senior Director of Growth Marketing and Marketing Operations at venture-backed software company Greenhouse. Lauren leads the company's demand generation and digital marketing teams, and expert is definitely the way to describe Lauren. She has a wealth of experience, consulted for hundreds of different organizations, ranging from small startups, businesses like all of you tuning in today, to the Fortune 500s, helping with the marketing funnel, a term that we are going to dig into today for sure. We are just so thrilled to have Lauren here to talk about really leveraging your existing customer relationships to grow your business. So after we hear Lauren's amazing presentation, which I got a sneak peek of, we are going to have plenty of time for Q&A. So put your questions in the Q&A box. We're going to do our best to get to as many as we can. And again, we know we've lost a little bit of time today, but we will make up for it. Don't you worry. And watch your inboxes, because you will get a replay link from today's session, as well as your post-webinar survey to help us shape new programs for you all. So with that, Lauren, I'm going to hand it over to you. Teach us your wisdom today.
Great. Thank you so much, Molly, for that warm introduction. Show business, live show business. This is how things go. So I'll certainly make sure we get through the content today as well. But I'm just so honored and humbled to be here with this network of entrepreneurs and small business owners to talk about how you can fast track your marketing. So as you'll hear a little bit more about me in just a few minutes, I've both co-founded a startup and also helped my family start a restaurant. So I understand both the struggle and power of effective marketing for small businesses. And I'm excited to share with you what I have learned along the way. I am a former 6th grade teacher, so have to start with the objective. My hope is that by the end of today's session, you'll have a clear understanding of how to kickstart a marketing promotion plan that fits your business type, whether it is online, retail, or other, and your audience, whether you're selling to consumers or businesses, and your budget, whether you've got $100 for marketing or $100,000. On top of that, as you learn how to grow your network, you'll pick up some tips for how to leverage your existing customer base to help grow your business even further. To get real specific about it, I'll give you a bit of my background so you know my perspective on the world and on marketing. And then I'll walk you through the marketing funnel, why it matters before creating your marketing plan. We'll dive a little bit into a fantastic resource that I've used many times, the one-page marketing plan, and workshop completing it together. And then we'll end with a primer on growth hacking and how it can actually help you grow your business with your customers. Okay, so we'll get into it a little bit about me and my background. I live in Beacon, New York, which is about 90 minutes north of the city. My home office is above my garage, so apologies in advance if anyone in my family doesn't read the sign on the front and opens it during the next hour. The joys of work from home. Currently, as Molly mentioned, I am the Senior Director of Growth Marketing at Greenhouse, which is a B2B software as a service business. As the hiring software company and nearly 800 employees, Greenhouse already has an established brand, market, and customer base. So that really makes growth marketing all about scalability, optimization, retention, and upsell. But we know it can be quite a different story for a new business, startups, and we're going to get into a little bit of that today. So I'll preface this by saying that I do want to keep this part short so we can get to the fun stuff, but connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to know any more about my background or think that my network might be able to help you in your own ventures. But the gist of it is that with a bachelor's in psychology and journalism, a master's in library and information science, I didn't exactly plan on becoming a marketer. I think like many of us, it just sort of happens. And the majority of my professional career, as Molly mentioned, has been marketing or consulting for B2B businesses, specifically in the SaaS or software as a service business space. But between LinkedIn and Greenhouse, I took a detour from the B2B world to co-found a tech startup with one of my colleagues, an estate planning app for the millennial generation. And it was an awesome experience at a true ground level startup. as well as just building a marketing strategy from scratch. After Quill was purchased by a VC for its IP content, I joined Greenhouse in my current position. But in addition to my official or paid positions, I should say, I also helped my parents open and market their restaurant called The Hungry Hollow in Albany, New York, where I learned a lot about marketing with basically zero budget. Unfortunately, the restaurant, like many others, did not survive COVID, but the lessons and experiences sure did, and I'm excited to share those with you. For today's presentation, through the lens of small business, I'll be using examples from Quill's startup and the Hungry Hollow as a local services business. That said, all of these strategies can easily apply to an e-commerce business, retail, B2B, or more. All right, great. So before we start with the one-page marketing plan and the specific strategies that can help you, I want to take a few minutes to outline the marketing funnel. Whether your business is B2B, B2C, an enterprise, local retail, the concept of marketing funnel is pretty much the same. How do you attract a large enough crowd at the top of the funnel that by the time they narrow down to those who actually become customers, you have a profitable business? So at the top, your first goal is really to reach your target audiences at scale. And we're going to go into examples of how you can identify your target audience and then the means to actually go ahead and reach them. Once you have reached a large enough audience with your brand message, the next goal is to engage them with valuable content and offers that are relevant to their needs. If you've got a long sales cycle, this is where nurture campaigns really come into play. And then finally, at the bottom of the marketing funnel, your aim is to convert and acquire customers. So for a consumer business, this typically means a sale. For B2B, it might mean generating a qualified lead. All throughout the funnel, of course, you'll measure campaigns and conversion rates for optimization. And we're going to use these three stages, reach, engage, and convert, throughout the examples today to anchor us in our marketing plan. All right, so Alan Dibb is an entrepreneur and business coach and wrote a book called The One-Page Marketing Plan. And in it, he basically turns the marketing funnel on its side to show it as a life cycle. But the concept is absolutely the same. So at the top of the funnel or start of the life cycle, you're attracting interest, capturing and nurturing leads to the point of conversion or sale. And then after acquiring that customer, it's up to your business to deliver an excellent product or service experience, which can garner additional business from the same customers and hopefully referrals from them to bring in new customers. So in the next section, we're going to focus on how to put a plan in place that covers that top of the funnel and then skips ahead to how to turn your existing business into future business via referrals. All right, let's get into it. So Dibb's book lays out kind of the how-to of putting together a marketing plan. Whether you purchase the book or not, I'm going to give you the resources for free here. But I have used the framework to kickstart marketing plans for both Quill and the Hungry Hollow that helped us to focus on early and affordable promotion plans, which I'm hoping you might be able to mimic and take with you. At the end of the deck, we'll include links to these resources so that you can create your own version. But spoiler alert, it's a funnel. So the top section, which Dibb calls before or the prospect stage, is really reach. So we'll break down into identifying the right target market, aligning the right message with that audience, and then the appropriate channels for them and media to put that message in front of them. The during or lead section covers both engage and conversion sections of the funnel. So it really requires a means for capturing leads, nurturing those leads, and then ultimately converting them into customers. Finally, Dibb's plan includes a blueprint for what to do after you acquire a customer, how you plan to deliver an excellent experience, increasing the lifetime value by upselling or selling additional services, and ultimately getting them to market you via referrals. So the last section can actually be an extension of our marketing funnel. It's sometimes referred to as the upside down funnel. If you're a Stranger Things fan, trust that it's not as scary as the upside down. But as you grow your customer base and get proficient at having them bring in more business for you, the need to spend on marketing dollars reaching new audiences diminishes. And that's where your real upside is. So I'm going to spend the next several minutes diving into each of these sections to help guide in how you might fill them out for your own business. All right. So we'll start by identifying and describing your target market. As most of you probably know, marketing loves acronyms. So STP stands for segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And these three together are really the foundation before doing any advertising or promotion. And we'll dive into each. So let's start with segmentation. Segmentation is all about dividing your potential customers into distinct groups that have certain commonalities and are likely, therefore, to have similar reactions to the marketing messages that you put out. But before you can really segment your audience, you need to identify your total addressable market, or your TAM, another acronym, the entire universe of your potential customers. Once you have identified your TAM, then you can identify the common customer attributes that might help you break your audience down into those smaller segments. Some common categories for those attributes are listed here: demographic, like ethnicity, age, gender, religion, income. Psychographic includes cultural traits, attitudes, lifestyle habits, personality traits. Geographic obviously covers where someone lives, but it can also be where they work or where they travel. And then behavioral relates back to their purchase and decision history. And if you're an online business, this can be how they're actually engaging with your web properties. If you're a B2B business, you might be interested in traits about the company as well. So firmographic, like company size, industry, and annual revenue, can help you segment. As well as technographic, what other technologies or systems or products that these businesses might be using that are related or integrate with yours. So with the attributes that are important to your business identified, you can then segment your audience into groups that are like one another. And there might be several that you want to target, which gets us into the next letter in the acronym, targeting. How do you choose which segments to actually target? So this whole process really narrows down to finding your ideal customer profile, your ICP, the audience that's most likely to buy your product and convert at high rates. It might take some additional market and customer research to kind of narrow down your segments into your true ICP. We found it helpful to use surveys, focus groups, even feedback forms at checkout counters to understand, what makes your happiest customers alike, so that you can find and repeat that success. Really, the most important thing here is that your target audience is large enough that you can scale your business. You don't want it to be too niche that you don't have a feasible way to reach. So let's walk through an example of identifying a target audience for Quill. As a reminder, Quill is an estate planning app that allows you to create your legal will documents via a chatbot on your phone. When we set out to define the TAM for Quill, we started with the broadest attributes possible. So on the demographic side, we figured that adults 26 and older with some education, working professionals would likely define the general population that might have a need for a will. Geographically, we could limit to the US and actually just 48 states within the US because that's where our wills were actually legal documents. Psychographically, we figured that our audience would likely be budget conscious because that's why they're looking for a free tool rather than hiring an estate lawyer. And tech savvy, not afraid to learn a new tool. And then finally, when we first launched our app, it was strictly iPhones. So on the behavior front, we needed people that had iPhones. It was a very important limiting attribute. Thus, we were able to identify our TAM as budget conscious, busy adult iPhone users who don't have a legal will created yet. However, trying to reach this broad of an audience wouldn't allow us to really hone in our message, nor would we be able to afford trying to reach this message through this audience through typical advertising. I like to use Facebook's ad manager tool to size up an audience just for a general idea. It allows you to use demographic, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral data points that they've collected from their users. So it's pretty easy for sizing an audience. It's not really a true market total addressable market analysis. But when thinking about advertising, it's great for your potential reach. So when we plugged in all of our criteria, it looks like we would actually be reaching a potential audience of 22 million, which obviously we would need to cut down. So through market research, we were able to hone in on 2 segments to start our marketing. One, millennials who are parents, as they would be less likely to have created a will and might have a need to create other estate planning docs like guardianship. 2, Gen Xers who are likely to have aging parents and might need to get their parents' affairs in order. Ultimately, we decided on our ICP audience to be tech-savvy millennials with iPhones and young kids because they're relatively easy to identify on a lot of channels that we could advertise to, and it had that upsell potential of going from our free will to paid guardianship documents. All right, so now that we identified our target market, the next step is how do we craft the message that we put in front of them? So creating the positioning statement is that last P in the STP, and it can be a very beneficial exercise internally that can help guide your product marketing, but also become a pillar for promotional messaging that you'll eventually use. So essentially it describes the core benefit that your product offers and can be differentiated for each audience or persona that you plan to market. So you can have multiple positioning statements. This is a template for creating your positioning statement that I actually got from an online MBA program that I did called Quantic. Found it very helpful to apply to both Quill and the Hungry Hollow. It identifies who's your audience, what's their pain point or the opportunity in the market, what your product is and its key benefit, and how it's different from competing products. This last piece is another acronym, your USP or your unique selling proposition, ideally something that no one else in the market can claim. So we'll walk through an example of a positioning statement for a company most of us probably know or have heard of, Spotify, when it originally launched back, I think in 2006, if you can believe it. So Spotify is for music lovers who are dissatisfied with having to pay for each song they want to hear. Spotify is a music streaming service that provides immediate access to millions of songs for a small monthly fee. Unlike iTunes, its main competitor, we make it easy to access all your playlists when you switch devices. So this last piece, the unique selling proposition, held pretty strong until Apple launched Apple Music in 2015, their own streaming service. And of course, there are other competitors along the way, but for a while, Spotify really had a hold on this part of the market. So let's do the same thing for Quill. So you can see how we did it for my own startup. Reminder, Quill is an estate planning app for busy, budget-conscious parents of young children who are dissatisfied with having to deal with expensive lawyers and complicated legal tools. Quill is an estate planning iPhone app that provides a jargon-free way to create your legal will and guardianship documents in under 5 minutes. Unlike LegalZoom, who is our kind of mainstream competitor, Quill wills are free to create and can be completed via chatbot right on your phone. So you can see how you could take this exercise and apply it to just about any type of product to get the ball rolling, even getting it down to specific features, new product lines within a business. It doesn't have to be holistic for the entire company. So now that we have our target market and message defined, let's get into the avenues we have to actually reach that audience with that message. So generally speaking, there are 3 types of promotions or media: paid, owned, and earned. Paid promotions will use your marketing dollars, but really can be offline or online, aka digital. So examples might range from more traditional advertising techniques like print ads and commercials to digital marketing like display and social media ads. Owned is really where it's at for new small businesses. Own refers to any messages that you're promoting from properties that you build, operate, and control. Could be your website, your blog, newsletters to folks that have signed up for email lists, and project messages out to your organic followers via social media feeds. So one thing I'll come back to a lot is how important it is when you're first starting out to grow this organic audience, to create means to collect emails for newsletters, to have a following on social media, so that when you do launch your business or product, kind of already have a base of people that you can put your message out to without the need to dive right into marketing dollars. Earned media is a little more conceptual, and it refers to any press, mentions, or attention that earns you exposure that you didn't pay for. So this can include traditional PR, word of mouth, mentions in industry publications. Some of the more lucrative earned exposure actually comes from just public reviews and comments anywhere users might rate you against your competitors. So have no shame in asking for those reviews. Influencer marketing can actually be an example of both earned and paid. Influencers are generally celebrity or well-known individuals or accounts that have large networks on social media or other media platforms like podcasts and talk shows. But the key is that they have both credibility and reach. So the holy grail is making an organic impression on an influencer who decides to share your brand with their followers without it being an advertisement. But there is also quite a business in influencer marketing, and paying for influencers to promote your brand via seemingly organic posts. Anytime you see a kind of hashtag ad, that's typically an influencer marketing ad. An affordable type is actually called micro influencers, and they're typically influencers who have audience sizes that are less than 30,000 people. So they can help you get very targeted with a niche audience. If you use influencer marketing platforms on any search engine, you'll find several marketplaces where you can find influencers in your industry or market and enter into campaign agreements with them. It's a really good and somewhat affordable way to grow your audience. So I'll walk through a few examples here for paid, owned, and earned media to reach your audiences using Quill. We'll start with paid here. So for an online business like Quill, search ads in the iPhone App Store allowed us to use a keyword strategy to attract people that were searching for free or legal will to download our app. So rather than going out to target our ICP, this actually was showing high intent people looking for something that we had to offer. So the same strategy can be used on any paid search tool like AdWords, Bing, review directories, just very high intent way to reach people that are somewhat ready to engage with you. Facebook ads using native targeting, and native targeting mean it was using data that Facebook had collected from its own users, allowed us to get very specific with both demographic and interest targeting so that we're able to reach millennials with iPhones, college degrees. We could choose parents, even with kids under 5 at a certain age range. So this allowed us to put content and video ads right in front of them, driving them straight to the App Store. And then one of our most successful campaigns came through influencer marketing, and that's what this picture shows here. We paid a small fee, maybe a few $100s per campaign, to have mommy bloggers post about their experience using Quill to secure their kids' futures. So this allowed us to zero in on our target audience, parents with young kids who are tech savvy, and ads led them back either to our account so they could follow us and help us grow our following, or straight to the App Store if they had iPhones to download the app straight away. When it came to owned ads, a newsletter and email marketing really worked for us. So before we even launched our product, we had a newsletter capture form on our website for people that were interested in being early adopters, getting special deals on early bird pricing, and just interested in our product updates and wanted to stay in touch with us. So that by the time we launched, we already actually had a few thousand people that were subscribed to hear from us. We also asked everyone who created a free will with our tool if they wanted us to keep in touch with them with estate planning and product news. So we got a lot of opt-ins that way as well. And this allowed us to run promotions to both new users as well as upsell campaigns to existing users to try to convert them into premium accounts. So We also invested time and resources in content marketing via our blog, featuring guest posts from legal experts, which then encouraged those experts to post back to our blog, giving us even more exposure. So it helped because they were writing content for us, and then their networks were being introduced to our blog through theirs. So it's really, really great also for search equity and SEO. And then lastly, we took advantage of our product. If you've got a website or an online product, use that as free or free-ish real estate for your own promotions. So we had in-app notifications that after a user created their will would provide them discounts on premium features, try to upsell them and grow their business. All right, lastly here for earned promotions, press releases are tried and true. We did create a press release and circulated it through several online tech and legal publications. We used PR Newswire to help us do that. And then beyond that, typical press approach, a unique strategy that was actually suggested to me by a former colleague was to use a website called HARO, H-A-R-O, or Help a Reporter Out. It's actually a fantastic tool that allows you to search by topic for journalists that are already writing stories and may need testimonials, quotes, examples. So you may be able to search your topic or industry and find an angle that you can actually help a reporter with, who will kind of get you some free press. So we found a reporter working on a story for, there's an app for that, in the fintech and legal tech spaces, and we're actually able to provide a few quotes on our app. The best strategy, though, was getting our satisfied customers to rate the app by asking them to leave a review after they created their will, which in turn increased our App Store ranking. When we first launched, we had absolutely no shame reaching out to family, friends, colleagues, please download the app, rate us to get the ball rolling. And you can and should do this with anything, whether it's Google reviews, directory review sites, whatever it is, can really give you a leg up. I'll go through the Hungry Hollow a little bit faster here. Online businesses, whether e-commerce or software, can be very different from local businesses. So I want to touch on a couple of other examples. I did talk about the importance of growing your organic audience the second you have a business idea or a plan forming. This helps to take advantage of owned audiences to launch in a very cost-effective way. So we started growing an audience before the Hungry Hollow and the building that it would be in was even built. The neighborhood we were in had a block party and allowed us to have a free booth there. So we created a taste testing contest between 2 macaroni salads, and the winning one would end up on our official menu. So we had people rate them, and who doesn't want free macaroni salad? So this helped by creating buzz for the coming restaurant, but also to enter the contest, we required either an email address or for them to follow us on Facebook so that we could keep in touch with them. We collected hundreds of email addresses and were able to successfully promote our soft opening to people in the neighborhood, offering them discounts. So it not only helped us grow our audience, but it helped us have a successful opening day as well. On the paid side, we did leverage Facebook's geo and job place targeting to run local ads to New York state workers in Albany that worked in a nearby plaza. So we were able to time our ads throughout the day because we offered breakfast and lunch. In the morning, we advertised order ahead breakfast options so that they could pick it up on their way into work. And then midday, we ran ads for lunch delivery and catering options. By having such a niche audience in that local market, we were able to really keep costs down and conversion rates high. And then lastly, for earned promotions, we really leaned into those reviews. So Grubhub and Google reviews, we asked repeat customers to leave reviews for us, knowing that it would increase our rankings for other people who might be searching and finding us for the first time on a delivery site. I'm not going to go through this resource because of time, but I do encourage you to come back to it. I've mentioned that, when you're first starting out, it's incredibly helpful to have a following and a network that's already associated to your brand. These are some ideas for how you can do that and sites that you can reach out to on either a low or zero budget to start growing your audience. So I encourage you to come back and look at this slide. All right, with our target market identified, our message positioning intact, our media options outlined, next up is how to nurture and convert your audience. And the good news is we've honestly talked about most of these strategies already for lead capture and conversion. So I'll go through this section a little bit more quickly. I'll share 2 examples, one for Quill and one for the Hungry Hollow. For Quill, we captured leads in 2 ways: the newsletter on our website, and also at the end of every blog post, and then requiring email address at the end of the will creation process. With those email addresses in place, it then became quite easy to use our email tool. We used MailChimp to keep in touch with our audience. We nurtured them with user education, estate planning tips and advice, and product updates. Definitely highly recommend MailChimp for email marketing for small businesses or new businesses, because they have a free option and they tier their pricing quite nicely. So you don't start paying more until your audience starts to grow. Lastly, to convert into paying customers, because they were opted in already for us, we offered them special offers, early bird pricing, free trials and premium products, referral discounts, and that worked really well for us. Hungry Hollow, even though a different business model, had a very similar mid-funnel strategy. Again, we aimed at growing our email opt-ins with a form on our website, and also the local campaigns like the taste test contest I described. And then once we had users signed up, we segmented them based on whether they were customers in the neighborhood, state workers, or catering customers, so that we could send them relevant information and deals. Our emails ranged from menu specials, discount promotions, and even to some of our popular recipes. And luckily, people kept coming back to us, even though we gave those secrets away. And then lastly, to convert, really urgent discount promotions worked. So today's specials, or, until we run out, language really worked. And then offering coupons for first-time customers on our delivery sites, and loyalty discount cards to reward multiple purchases. Here's another slide that I encourage you to come back to if you're in B2B. So often in B2B, content marketing is a very powerful strategy to nurture your people kind of in the awareness stage that are just getting to know you to the point where they're ready to talk to your sales. So we've put topic or content types that work well for each funnel stage, as well as some campaign ideas you can use with those to come back to this if you have a little bit of a longer sales cycle and you're trying to understand where you should start your content marketing strategy. Okay, we're nearing the conclusion here. So while you've probably heard the term growth marketing, you might not have heard the term growth hacking. Growth hackers are a hybrid of marketer and a coder, or an experimenter. And there's someone who looks at the traditional question of how do I get customers for my product, and answers with A/B tests, landing pages, the viral factor, email deliverability, really anything that's data-driven. And the goal of growth hacking is to uncover how to do more with less. One of the best strategies is to figure out how to hack your customers into marketing your product for you. So up to this point, we've kind of squarely completed the traditional marketing funnel plan from Quill for Quill from reach to convert. While I won't go into the product customer experience, I will just touch in these last few minutes on some tips for how to turn those customers into referrals that ultimately will grow your business. Okay, another book recommendation. Going viral is everyone's dream, whether you're a meme or a hot new product. Being trendy gets results. But as Jonah Berger points out in his book, Contagious, it doesn't usually happen by accident. In its simplest form, virality is about how one user or customer helps to get another user or customer. And you can think about it as a loop. A user signs up, they take some action, that action leads to another user signing up, and then it starts over. So the concept of virality has been around for more than 100 years, dating back to the first chain letter by snail mail. And as the internet emerged and platforms such as email, Facebook, mobile devices connected everyone, fuel was poured on the fire. And we all started getting these annoying text messages like this one here. Products can go viral, memes can go viral, fashion can go viral. When it comes to marketing, there are several repeatable types of viral loops that you might want to try out for your business. One of those are organic invites. So if your product enables contextual sharing like Dropbox does, Dropbox user shares a folder with their colleague, that colleague then signs up for Dropbox. Very clean way to grow your business. Casual contact. One of the most successful and early terms of a product viral loop is Hotmail. Back in 1996, it was one of the first free webmail tools, and they inserted just one line at the bottom of all the emails that their users sent out. It said, "P.S. I love you, get your free email at Hotmail." And that way they could provide a way for them to get their own account, costing them nothing. And then finally, something that I think it's a little easier for any business of any type to pick up is incentivized referrals. So an example is Uber offering users to invite a friend and receive a $10 credit when they sign up. So you can take this business or this approach with literally any business, whether your product costs $10 or $10,000, offering that incentivized referral often works. To measure this, the term K factor can measure the effectiveness of your viral loop. In startup world, the viral coefficient measures the number of new users that each existing user is able to bring in and convert. So if each new user customer you have is bringing in on average more than one other user, K factor is greater than 1, and congratulations, you're going viral. So I will leave a few other examples here with you for inspiration. We did try this at Quill during will creation. People had to tell us who they wanted their executor to be and who they wanted their beneficiaries to be. So we asked them if they wanted to send a copy of their will to those folks, and if so, if they wanted to invite them to use the platform. And we were able to get a lot of new users that way. Also, because Quill was free with the premium features, we implemented a share with 5 friends promotion and gave free premium accounts to any users who had 5 friends sign up. All right, so this finishes our one-page marketing plan for Quill. To recap, first, we focused on how to identify and reach the right audiences with market, message, and media. We explored ways to engage your audiences, ultimately nurturing them and converting them into customers. And then once customers, we explored ways to feed off your network and hopefully take your business viral by having customers refer future business. Before we hop into questions here, I'll just point out a few resources that are at the end of this deck, a link so that you can get your own copy of the one-page marketing plan. Also included a multi-channel media guide. Looks kind of busy here, but if you're doing digital advertising for the first time, it gives some advice on what types of messages, content, CTA metrics kind of align across the funnel for various advertising channels. An article with fantastic advice on A/B testing. Again, if you're doing digital advertising and you aren't currently A/B testing, this gives some great advice and also links to other resources. And then finally, additional recommended reading. If you're more interested in learning about the concept of the viral coefficient and going viral, I recommend reading Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. And that will do it for me.
Well, Lauren, that was packed full of information. You made a lot happen in a truncated amount of time. And we have some really good questions that came in. I first want to get a quick question that came in off our plates. And I know a couple of people asked, what was the influencer marketplace destination that you referenced that people can go find good micro influencers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually didn't reference a specific one. I just did this again yesterday to test out. What I recommend doing is going to Google and searching influencer marketing platform plus your industry or topic. So for us, it was kind of like influencer marketing platform plus mommy bloggers. And you'll get there are tons of businesses out there. There are some paid platforms and there's some that are free platforms that just bring together the network of influencers so that you can then talk to them and find a good fit and decide your own price for a campaign.
Great.
Yes, Collapster is one I actually see in the chat here. Lots of people giving advice on specific ones as well.
Amazing. So one of the areas that I think a theme we see in entrepreneurs we work with, even with ourselves, is when you're at that stage where you're looking at earned, paid, or owned, and where to put your time and investment, especially when a lot of folks here are solo founders, we're trying to be budget conscious. What are some of the things you would recommend people ask themselves when deciding which area to put their energy?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, I think it comes down to how much budget you have, if any, and what you're willing to put towards marketing. And it's okay if the answer is zero at this point. I think that kind of encourages you at that point to start with owned. And so I think some of the things that you can do at that stage is really focus on growing your email list as well as your social media platform. I think, it really depends on the business, which social media platforms are the right ones for you. But if you're, on Twitter, LinkedIn, starting to have a presence, following other just organic influencers, engaging with them, starting to provide valuable content, expertise, thought leadership so that people follow you back is one of the best ways to get started, so that once you do launch, you've got people in a community and an audience ready to go. If you do have a little bit of budget, and I'm talking for the Hungry Hollow, our Facebook ads, we were spending less than $400 a week on Facebook ads. It was very small budget, but we had a niche audience. Once it was Quill, what we did is we did a market profitability analysis, and we basically decided how much of our seed investment are we willing to put towards marketing. And I think we ended up with about 100K for the year in advertisements. It wasn't a lot, but it allowed us to test a lot of different avenues. And I think the most important thing you can do is once you do start spending money, make sure that you're tracking it so that you can see what's coming out of this. Is it actually converting into customers so that you can get an ROI? And you want to know what your return on investment is if you are doing any kind of paid, so that you know what to lean into, what not to. I could talk about this for hours though, and if anybody is interested in more, please connect with me on LinkedIn because it can vary so wildly depending on your business.
And I guess a piece of advice on that front, and something that we see frequently, is if you are going down that paid route, make sure that owned house is in order. Don't pay and bring somebody to a site where you haven't figured out what's working for converting a sale and having a site that loads quickly and all of those fundamentals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great advice.
Yeah. Now, a question that came in when people were signing up, and I think you had some tips, but if we can dig in more, how can founders here entice customers pre-product launch? You shared some great ideas, but let's talk a little more about what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So, be shameless, first of all. But, with Quill, one of the things that we did is we tried a little bit of an exclusivity element. So, we reached out to our network, our colleagues first. We put a form on our website. It was one of the first things that we did to collect interest. But we also promised that, I think it was like the first 500 who sign up would be lifetime members for free with our premium products, because we were still at the time figuring out like what our pricing is. It's very similar to like a Kickstarter model, if you're familiar with Kickstarter, where entrepreneurs and businesses can go and actually get funding by having early adopters invest and purchase their products before they, even our customers. So exciting kind of your potential network to just want to hear from you, your product news, and then be your early customers. You can in turn, what we did is then closed off our newsletter list at some point and only allowed our users to invite other people. We were stealing that strategy from Gmail, who I think when they launched in 2003, or 2004, the only way to become a Gmail user was to be invited, and it created just a lot of buzz, and people want what they can't have. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do if you're able to stand up a quick website and promote it through your organic channels.
Another question that came in is, when starting to run different campaigns or tactics, do you recommend throwing paint at the wall and doing a bunch at once, running one campaign at a time and measuring ROI? Like, what approach do you think founders should take?
I think if you're just starting out, especially if you're like a solo founder, or you might just have a couple people, start small. If you do too many things at once, one, you'll spread yourself thin. Two, you might not know what's working, because it can take a little bit to figure out too how to track things. If you're in a digital business, it can be a little bit easier to track. If you're a local services business, if you're doing offline marketing, it can also be a lot harder. So yeah, I think with most things that you're not confident in yet, starting slow, starting with one channel is definitely better.
And a follow-up question to that is, when you're running a campaign, like, how do you know how long to sort of, put money into something to see, like, are you making a dent or an impact?
Yeah, this is where that's a good question and tricky. Scale matters so much on the digital front. That's the funnel comes into place. Like, you do have to reach a lot of people in order to get conversion rates down. For example, with most digital advertisements, you're doing great if you have like a 2 to 5% click-through rate. So if you've got 100 people, you've already down to 5 people clicking through, and then you've got maybe a 10% conversion rate on that. So the more people can reach, the better you can do. And this can mean you have to leave things running for a while, at least a couple weeks to when you're first starting out, before you decide something isn't working, just to start to understand what those conversion rates are and know, okay, if I pour more money into this now, these are, what I can expect to get out of it.
So a lot of folks on here are potentially getting pitched by people left and right for, like, let me be your agency, contract out your marketing to me, or are trying to build or bring in a first few hire or build out a small marketing team. You have done marketing so many places, work, and have hired a team. How do you interview? What questions do you ask? What do you look for in those people?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. One, if you have the budget and you don't have the means to hire a team, I do absolutely love agencies. So, if that's a route that you've looked at, there's a lot of benefit in having experts kind of help you with that. But if I would say, especially if you're doing any kind of digital advertising, everybody's first marketing hire should be more scientist than artist. I think having somebody who's data driven, excited by data, not afraid to fail, interested in A/B testing, eager to learn on the job. You don't have to know everything, but I think kind of that data background really helps, because you can learn a lot about marketing on the job. It's kind of hard to teach that data mindset and skill set.
That is great advice. And I guess on that note, since we are running out of time, what would be one last thing you want founders today to walk away with?
Yeah, great. I think your marketing will be successful if you figure out, again, that ICP, who your customers are that are most likely to convert. If you figure out where they are and how to get your message in front of them. And that's really kind of all it does boil down to at the end of the day. Facebook, I shouldn't say this. A lot of people have controversial opinions about Facebook, but there's a lot of people on Facebook. And so if you can figure out where your audience is and get in front of them, you're off to a great start.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lauren, we have learned so much today, and I know we could go on for hours. This is a topic that I know I could talk about all day. But